Друзі, ну що ж, інформаційна війна.
The informational war of Russia against Ukraine and the world continues. They bombard informational space with fakes and propaganda that are easily debunked. But because this attack is as fierce and massive as the one on the battlefield, such information quickly spreads amongst not only Russian people, but international community at large. It calls for immediate rebuttal. This time, though, we observe that as mouthpieces of propaganda, the anonymous sources have been joined by people on high posts, sometimes by people of the highest authority. In particular, not long ago, we heard statements of the Minister of International Affairs of Russia, Lavrov, that Ukraine produces chemical weapons that would target specific ethnicities. These are the easily debunkable ones. This time, however, Lukashenko have become a mouthpiece of propaganda. During his visit to Moscow, he stated that it was not Russia that attacked Ukraine, using Belarus as a staging ground. It turns out it was Ukraine that had tried to attack Belarus and have been outmaneuvered at a very last moment. It is quite strange that at the same time, according to propagandistic media, Ukraine also planned to attack the so-called DNR-LNR, was developing chemical and nuclear weapons. Full house of fakes, as it were. It all looks quite strange. From one side, Ukraine for 8 years have been waging war against DNR-LNR and been preparing its attack on Belarus at the same time. It prepared and planned, waiting until Belarus have been stuffed with hundreds of thousands of Russian troops and then decided to attack. This take is simply devoid of most basic logic. But people that broadcast such fakes do not take critical thinking into consideration. Instead, it is us, Ukrainians, that must engage in critical thinking and debunking of such fakes. We can also see the use by propagandists of mirroring technique. As in, as soon as Ukraine reports on something, they need to mirror it with identical reporting of their own to undermine Ukrainian message, while at the same time polluting informational space with their own agenda. In particular, Ukraine, as you know, is waiting for arrival of international volunteers. At the same time, from the side of aggressor state, from the mouth of another state official, the Minister of Defense, it can be heard that mercenaries from Syria and Middle East are ready to join the fight on their side. They even used the same number that Ukraine reported earlier when talking about foreign nationals that were ready to defend Ukrainian borders. 16,000 people. This is very dangerous though, as former member of ISIS could be used against peaceful population of Ukraine. This does pose a grave danger. Moreover, this follows overarching narrative of Russian propaganda about Ukraine using chemical weapons. All of this suggests that preparations are being made by Russia of serious scenario for Ukraine. As such, we should be cautious and keep in mind what this could entail. Most interesting is that the fake about the biochemical laboratories on the territory of Ukraine that were created by the Pentagon or at other times by State Department, German scientists or somebody else entirely, is continued to be broadcasted not just citing Russian officials, but entire state bodies. For example, a statement about this was made by the Speaker of the State Duma Volodin, who legalized this fake through a statement by the State Duma of Russia and an appeal to international organizations demanding to investigate these laboratories on the territory of Ukraine. This is how first the fake is thrown in through anonymous sources. Then it is confirmed by the military, then by officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, then by the Speaker of Duma, and then through the appeal of the parliament it goes into circulation into the international space. This is a technology for legalization of false information. I want the whole world to realize this, how they are trying to deceive it. Another example of the technology of mirror responses, which is used by Russia about the alleged desire to transfer modern equipment to the arsenal of the militias of the so-called LPLNR-DNR, among them javelins and stingers. The question arises, how come Russia has these weapons? They report that these are Ukrainian weapons, but there is some serious doubt about this. There is suspicion that these weapons could have been acquired by Russia itself on the markets of third countries and then legalized via transfer to the so-called LNR and DNR through the alleged mechanisms of confiscation from the Ukrainian military and further legalization in the hand of these militias. Why is Russia doing this? Because it sees how Ukrainians every day capture as trophies their best weapon systems. Among them are the Panzer systems. Each of them cost 15 million apiece. Moreover, sometimes this was done not even by the armed forces, but by self-organized farmers on the territory of the Nikolaev Oblast. To extinguish these symbols, in order to, for example, extinguish the report that the chairman of the Nikolaev administration is already in possession of a captured tiger, appropriated from the Russian army. They launch such messages about their alleged readiness to arm the militants of the so-called LNR-DNR with Ukrainian weapons. Therefore, we have only one thing left to do: to resist these fakes, to tell the truth, to warn the international community and Ukrainian viewers about possible scenarios, and call on to Russians themselves to think critically and not trust Russian propaganda. We in Ukraine will definitely defeat it. Thank you for your attention and see you soon.